Hey guys, TrainerDC here, coming at you with another video. I've been thinking about how the Pokemon Company, how Game Freak is going to handle Zygarde when it comes to Pokemon Legends Z today, given that I think Zygarde, everyone believes, is going to have a major focus in those games, given that Pokemon Legends Z today, it's in the title, Z is representing Zygarde, but how exactly is Game Freak going to handle Zygarde? I made a video before discussing how I think Game Freak is going to give Zygarde some new forms in this game, and I'll leave a card above to that video, and I also discussed how in that video I think that Zygarde could potentially be like the Arceus of this game, how in Pokemon Legends Arceus you had to complete the Pokedex to have the final boss battle with Arceus. I think they might do something similar to that with Zygarde in this game, but at the same time it might make more sense for them to do a different take on Zygarde, a different way to obtain him in this game, given that there's a lot of Zygarde cells and Zygarde cores that we probably are going to need to collect in order to capture Zygarde. My one hope, I will say before I get into this theory, is I really hope that they don't do something like the Spirit Tomb Whisks in Pokemon Legends Arceus, because to me, I don't like fetch quests like that in games. I find them to be rather tedious and rather annoying, and especially when it came to obtaining these Spirit Tomb Whisks, the way they handled it, at least for me, there was a lot of pop-in when I'm trying to find them, and honestly, I would stand in front of a location that I knew had one because I was trying to follow a walkthrough because I just couldn't find them, and I was standing in front of a location that I knew had a whisk there, and the whisk did not appear until I literally stood on top of it. So I just hope they don't do something again like that, because I didn't think it was the most fun to do in the first place. Plus, with the technical issues that game had running on the Switch, it made it even less fun and more tedious to do, so I hope they stay away from that from Zygarde, but in all likelihood that's probably what they're going to do. But anyways, my theory today is, what if Zygarde is effectively one of our starter Pokemon in this game? As we all know, Zygarde has different power levels depending on which form it's taking. It has its 10% form, it has its 50% form, and its 100% form right now. As I said before in other videos, I think we're going to get more Zygarde forms introduced, and of course we have the Zygarde cells and Zygarde cores. But what if we start out the game getting our starter Pokemon, which will most likely be one of the 3 Kalos starters or some new combination that they'll come up with for Legends Z to A. We get our starter Pokemon, and then in addition to getting that, later in the beginning of the game we happen to get a Zygarde core, and maybe we could use Zygarde core in battle for the first time, given that that's a form of Zygarde that you can't obtain in game to use in battle. What if they change that in Pokemon Legends Z to A? What if we start the game with a Zygarde core, and as we progress throughout the story we start receiving more and more cells of Zygarde and more cores of Zygarde, that at the point at which we start we just have one Zygarde core, but then by the time you're at the halfway point of the story, maybe you have Zygarde's new 30% or 40% form and you're getting its 50% form for the climax of the game, and maybe in the post game you then have to do certain quests, or maybe completing the Pokedex in the post game helps you obtain from 50% all the way up to 100. I think that'd be a fun way for them to introduce Zygarde in this game, to not only have it be a more interesting way to obtain complete form Zygarde than just running around the region searching for, little fetch quests where they place the core or where they place the cell. I think this would be a more interesting way for us to obtain Zygarde in its different forms, because you would start out with one Zygarde core in your party, and then as you progress throughout the game, as you progress throughout the story, you would build up to getting 50% Zygarde to fight the final boss, and then in the post game you can work up from 50% to, let's say, 75%, its new 75% form, which I think it will get, and then all the way up to 100%. I think that's a much better way to integrate Zygarde into this game, not only from just a perspective of gameplay, just it's more interesting and more fun to get that way, but I also think from a narrative perspective, Zygarde is going to be an integral part of the story for Pokemon Legends Z to A. So why not have it be essentially a pseudo-starter Pokemon, one of the Pokemon that we start out with at the beginning of the game. You have it in its core form, then as you progress throughout the story, you get to, let's say, its 10%, let's say you have a new 25% form, and then you get up to its 50% for the climax. Then in the post game, you get to go from 50% to, let's say, 75%, then to its complete form, and then at the end of the game, you get, let's say there's another boss fight where you get to use complete Zygarde to save the Kalos region. Maybe we have to stop the ultimate weapon or the A legendary or something of the sorts. I think that'd be a great way for them to handle Zygarde in this game, and I really do hope that this is what they're going to do, but in all likelihood, as I said before, I feel like more likely than not, they're probably just going to do a fetch quest similar to the Spirit Tomb Whisks in Pokemon Legends Arceus, but again, fingers crossed, really hope they don't do that, because I didn't like it the first time, and I really hope that they make Zygarde and collecting its different forms a more integral part of the story in Legends Z to A, since essentially Zygarde is, I know we don't have the cover yet, and the cover for Legends Arceus didn't actually have Arceus on the cover. But in essence, Zygarde is essentially the cover legendary for this game. It's in the title, Pokemon Z, and of course there's the A, which I think is going to be a new A legendary, which I'll leave a card above to that video if you haven't seen that. I hope Zygarde becomes an integral part and has a big focal point within this story, and what better way to do so than to have us start out with Zygarde, and then as we progress throughout the game, we essentially evolve it, quote unquote, unlocking its other forms, making it more and more powerful for when we fight that final boss fight. Anyways, let me know in the comment section below what you guys think about all this. Do you guys agree with me that obtaining Zygarde as essentially one of our starter Pokemon would be a great way to handle him within these games, and then level him up as we progress the games, and you know, our climax will have 50%, in the post game we get 100% form Zygarde? Or do you have a better idea for how they should handle Zygarde? Let me know down below. If you guys enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe to see more content like this from Trainer DC. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.